Hey guys, what are we gonna talk about today? Alright, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about Amazon. And more specifically, let's talk about pay-per-click advertising on Amazon. And I'm gonna go over how I search for keywords. This is just my own process. Everybody's probably a little bit different. But I'll kind of show you what I'm looking for when I'm picking out keywords to throw in Jeff Bezos's pay-per-click service. Oh, my nose is itchy. Oh, man, dude, the pollen outside, holy crap. You go outside, it smells like a straight up like Febreze can, like throughout the parking lot. I was wondering why I was so tired today, and it's gotta be the allergies, man. It's gotta be like, I couldn't believe it, like when I went outside tonight. It's like Summer's Meadow spray can Febreze. I don't even know if that's an actual smell. But yeah, that's what it smells like. So, anywho, let's see, what were we talking about? The first thing is, we're gonna be talking about Amazon's pay-per-click campaign, where you actually find keywords and then those keywords show you to potential customers, and that's how your product is found. We're not going to talk about product targeting, which is essentially targeting individual products and picking those products to target. So we're not going to talk about those. So we're going to talk about keywords essentially. There are three types of keywords. There's broad, there is exact, and there's phrase. All right, so there's three types. And when I first started this, I actually did not know what the difference was between exact and phrase. But after doing this for a while, I now know. Okay, so broad, pretty straightforward. Broad is exactly like it sounds. It's broad. So whatever keywords or whatever words you put in, it's going to randomly pick from those keywords and show your product to the consumer. So if you put in delicious coffee cake, it may show up as delicious, it may show up as coffee, it may show up as cake, it may show up as coffee cake, it may show up to the consumer as delicious cake, and only so it may show up to the consumer at random using any combination of those words. That's what broad is. It can be one of those words that trigger an ad to show up. It can be none of them. It can be two of them together. It can be all kinds of stuff. So that's what broad is. So that's pretty straightforward. I should have thought this through before I started talking. So that's what broad is. So broad is broad, right? Okay, so here's the two tricky ones, exact and phrase, okay? So let's start with exact. Exact is exact. If you put in delicious coffee cake, they need to type in delicious coffee cake to get your product to show up. They can't type in awesome coffee cake. They can't type in delicious coffee cake for kids. They cannot type in any combination of that. It is exactly delicious coffee cake. So it's got to be that exact phrase is what's going to trigger the ad. Okay, now here's the third one, phrase, okay? So phrase, it's that exact combination of words that you pick, but anything can come before or it can come after it. So that's what phrase is. So if you put in delicious coffee cake, if it's hot delicious coffee cake, if that's what they type in, that will trigger your ad. If you type in, delicious coffee cake for kids, for adults, for whatever, as long as it has that exact phrase in it, anything that they put in after or before, it will trigger that ad. So that is the difference. Now, when I'm doing this stuff, I actually tend to pick exact and phrase statements, and then I'll throw in a few broad, and I'll see kind of what happens with that. But it's a little bit of a process. So this is actually kind of a combination of like kind of an art and a science type thing. And then on top of it, Amazon picks and chooses which one of your words thinks it applies to your product and shows it. So even if your product is coffee cake, right? And I don't know why the hell I picked coffee cake, but even if it is coffee cake and your keyword is coffee cake, like you pick it, Amazon may, in their infinite wisdom, just go, I ain't showing it to anybody. So that's another factor, right? So you can pick all the keywords in the world, but it is an experiment, and you're trying and you're picking and choosing and you're adjusting your description if it's your own product to try and get those keywords to start showing your ads. And the goal is that eventually it will generate organic traffic, and that organic traffic will propel your product upward. That's part of the reason you're doing all this pay-per-click, is that you want Amazon to eventually show your product when somebody types in delicious coffee cake and not have to pay for it anymore. That's the goal. But one thing to know also about this is a moving target, okay? So you can't just pick your keywords and then you're done the rest of your life and you don't have to worry about it. Amazon will adjust your listing sometimes, you'll stock out, somebody else will come in and start picking those keywords, and then you'll start falling down the listings, and they're essentially start paying their way to the top, and they may have a bigger pocketbook, that sort of thing. So there's all kinds of factors. There's seasonality as well. So, like if you're targeting Christmas decorations in like summer, it's not going to be super popular necessarily. But if you're targeting Christmas decorations around Christmas time, that's the seasonality. It's going to be way more popular. It's going to be way more competitive. You'll get way more views and clicks and click-throughs and all that sort of good stuff. So now we've got the terms, right? Broad, phrase, exact. Okay, so now we're going to go to my computer and I'm going to show you two pieces of software that I use to find my keywords. And one caveat, this isn't the only software in the world you can use. I just happen to use these. I've been using them for a while. There's better ones out there. And actually, tell you the truth, I'd love to hear what you guys are using. So if you're using something else, I would love to hear it, because I am open to change. But this is just how I do it. I've had pretty good success. But one thing you have to realize with any piece of software that is attached to Amazon and reports from Amazon, it's all best guess, right? Because Amazon doesn't give them all the information that they need in order to create accurate reports and accurate anything, right? It's all the software kind of watching what's happening on Amazon and guessing. So that's kind of where the art and the science meet, is you kind of look at some of these keywords and you'll be like, dude, there's no way people are looking for that. Where other keywords, you'll be like, definitely, they're definitely looking for that. So that's where you kind of have to use your own judgment. You kind of have to experiment and that sort of thing. So just know that in advance, that this is a process. It's not an exact science, right? All right, enough talking. Let's do it. All right, so here we are looking at Amazon. All right, so the first thing we have to do is pick a product. Let's do coffee cake. I don't know why the hell I picked coffee cake, but let's do it. It's got a lot of variables, so it's something we can kind of zero in on, right? Okay, so I'm not going to actually go into Amazon itself, so I'm not going to go into Amazon and actually add the keywords, but we will talk about all the keywords that I would typically add if I was selling coffee cake. Yeah. All right, so this is coffee cake, right? Okay, so first of all, let's do a little bit of product research before we even get into the tools. Okay, so we've got actual coffee cakes, right? So we've got actual coffee cakes themselves. We've got coffee cake mix. We're seeing some terms like gluten-free, cinnamon swirl, that sort of stuff. As we scroll down, we see actual coffee itself, right? So actual coffee that's coming up when you type in coffee cake. And you scroll down, you've got, looks like packets of coffee that are they're coming from ads, it looks like. Looks like you've got some protein powder that's coffee cake. That's like, man, that would be delicious, right? Like coffee cake protein powder. Dude, I'd be like working out all the time if like I could just eat coffee cake. Some random crap that has nothing to do with coffee cake, devil dog, stuff like that. Okay, so now that we're kind of aware what comes up when we type in coffee cake, and the reason we're looking at stuff like this is because there's things that we want to add as negative terms. So before we even get started, we want to keep those negative terms in mind, because here's the goal with this, right? The goal is not to pay out a lot of money and to get people to click through and buy the product, right? So we don't want to waste a lot of money on super broad terms. At least that's not my goal. What I tend to do is I tend to go very specific and very exact, and I throw in negative terms so that my ads aren't triggered for people that are just like clicking away, right? So I throw in negative terms. And so that's why I look at this, is I want to find kind of some potential negative terms, like stuff that I don't want to trigger my ad when somebody types in this, okay? So that's the first thing I do is I take a look, okay, what do I want to eliminate, right? Actual coffee, and some of the terms that are associated with coffee are like ground coffee, K-cups, stuff like that, right? Dark roast, all those sort of things. So those are things that I would put in as negative terms. So I would write that down or type it up or whatever and kind of keep that off to the side so that when I'm later doing my ads, I've got this list of negative terms. If my product is actual coffee cake, right, I might eliminate mix. Like I might put mix in as a negative term because a mix is like a powder, right? So if people are looking to make their own coffee cake, they're not necessarily looking at buying individual coffee cakes themselves. So let's pretend like our product is actual legitimate coffee cakes ready to pop in your mouth type thing. Okay, so K-cups, ground, because it's not, ground coffee, dark roast, stuff like that, those would be negative terms. Mix might be a negative term to throw in there. Let's go down here. K-cups would be one. Protein powder, you don't want it triggered if people are typing coffee cake protein powder, because if they're working out, they're obviously not chowing down on coffee cakes, right? Okay, so we've got that. So those are some negative terms. Now let's talk about the software that I first use when I start searching for keywords. I use a piece of software called Merchant Words, all right? So Merchant Words is a paid service. It's about $9, $10 a month. It has a bunch of other features that I have not used yet. So it doesn't mean they're not great features. I just haven't used them. I use it for the basic search. Okay. All right. So let's go to classic search. So we'll click there. And this is where you would type in some words. So I would literally just start with the basics. I would just start with coffee cake. Oh, and I would actually type in coffee cake. Oh, man, can't spell, right? Coffee cake. There we go. Okay, let's see what comes up. Okay, now it's going to give you some suggestions, and it's going to show you a search volume. And so here's the columns, right? Here's the Amazon search, the search volume, and search volume's about how many people, well, actually, here's the explanation. Monthly approximation of how many shoppers are using this term. So per month, about 9,600 people are typing in coffee cake. Okay, so the next column over is called depth, right? Depth is basically how many letters you need to start to type into the search bar before it suggests the word coffee cake. So right now it's 6. So I guess let's give it a go here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there you go. So it looks like you can get away with 5, but 6 you'll start to see coffee cake show up. Any less than that and you'll see coffee creamer and stuff like that. So it's about 6 letters before it gets in there. If they're at least searching for coffee cake is going to be a suggestion. So that's kind of what that information means. All right, appearance, evergreen. Here's the definition. Evergreen is monthly, semi-annually is kind of like a couple times a year it comes up. One time means it comes up super infrequent. Seasonally, seen consecutively for 2 or 4 months. So over and over again each year, around the 2-month period, 4-month period. And then there's a few other options. So this is an evergreen term, so it means people are searching it all year long, monthly, that sort of thing. So it's a good product because everybody's looking for it all year long. All right. So let's see, what do we got here? Okay, so we type in coffee cake, so it's going to give us a bunch of words. Now here's where I was talking about some of the negative words. So when people are searching for coffee cake, also what comes up is Cake Boss, which is a show, K-cups. So boss would be a good negative. K-cups, we talked about that earlier. That would be a negative. Okay, so we can see what comes up here when you're typing in coffee cake. These are all the various things that people are searching for and things that come up when people type in coffee cake. Now, this is going to give you a lot of negative words to use, a lot of things that you can add so that your ads don't show up, but it will give you a lot of ideas for maybe additional things that you didn't think of. Like maybe your coffee cake is a birthday coffee cake. We talked about a mix, so ours is in a mix. Maybe it's keto, maybe it's a streusel. If it has a brand name, like Entenmann's, then you've got that. All kinds of sort of stuff. There's a mug, so that might be a negative keyword. Oh, fiber one. Maybe it's high in fiber. Maybe your coffee cake's high in fiber. So this will give you an idea of both search terms and volume. And so what you can do is if you kind of find something that you like, then what you can do is like say streusel cake coffee, right? So what we can do is we can click on this little magnifying glass and we can go search merchant words, and it'll automatically switch it to streusel cake coffee, and we'll type that in. So that will give you even more ideas. Cinnamon, Drake's, Hostess, so various brand names, butter, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I do is I keep going through each of these and I start to look at terms that maybe I didn't. Oh, God. It's so hard to explain. So I start looking at terms that are particular to my type of coffee cake. Like I would do cinnamon, all that sort of stuff. So I write these all down and then I add them. Okay. So I copy and paste these into my pay-per-click advertising campaign, as well as the negative keywords. Okay, so this is what I look for. I go through this and I go through and I look for the negative words and I look for the words that I actually want to use that are associated with my stuff. I keep going down the rabbit hole as I go. And so what I mean by going down the rabbit hole is this says cinnamon streusel coffee cake. I then click the search term and I type in that, and I'm like, okay, what else comes up? Hostess, coffee cake, cinnamon streusel. You can click on the individual words as well. So you could click on cinnamon. You could do that. See what comes up for cinnamon essential oil, powders, Saigon. So if any of this stuff applies to your coffee cake, then use that sort of stuff. Now I'm going to back up a screen. I'm going to back up one more. Let's look at coffee cake, cinnamon streusel. Wow, that's a mouthful. Let's try that one. Yeah, so various brands come up. So that's what I do is I just keep going down the rabbit hole, right? I keep clicking, and seeing what comes up and start looking for other terms. Now, so that's merchant words. So this gives you an idea of volume. I go through and I pick stuff that is both high volume and low volume, and I add them as both exact terms and as phrases. And one thing to note, S's matter. Now, Amazon's going to tell you that there's no damn difference whether you say coffee cakes or coffee cake. It absolutely does matter. You get different results adding an S or not adding an S. So when I do these keywords, I actually add the plural version of the words. So I will add cake and cakes and all kinds of stuff and streusels and all kinds of stuff to see what comes up. I'll even throw in some typos, everyone. But like maybe somebody doesn't know how to spell cinnamon. Maybe they spell it with one N or that sort of thing. So I will add that as well. I will type in cinnamon streusel coffee cake and I will eliminate an N in the middle of it just to bring up typos. Now it's probably it probably doesn't cost you that much on that keyword because it's a typo, but I'll add that. Okay, so that's merchant words, right? You go through, it's like $10 a month. You get to access this thing, and you get to go through and you get to experiment with keywords. Here is the next piece of software that I use. All right, so here is the other piece of software I use. It's called Keyword Inspector, and here's what I use that for, okay? So I use this to reverse ASIN search is what it's called. Reverse ASIN search is essentially picking products out there, and this keeps track of what keywords that product ranks for. So it kind of gives you an idea of what your competition is ranking for so that you can start to target some of those keywords. All right. So Keyword Inspector, it's all credit based. Like essentially you buy some credits, and then when you buy those credits, you can use them to do these reverse ASIN searches. So it's not like a monthly service. I happened to buy all these credits the last time they had a big sale. So I continue to use Keyword Inspector because essentially I bought a bunch of credits. So, all right. So we'll click on reverse ASIN search. Now, if you scroll down, this is where you would add your ASINs in. I always do the most advanced search, the extensive one that's 3 credits a pop. I always do that one. There are some other ones that get into some craziness, but I don't typically do those. So I use this USA extensive. These other ones have a lot of other features that you can maybe take advantage of, but this is the one that I use, is the USA extensive. So first things first is you need some ASINs. So to get those ASINs, and those of you not familiar with ASINs are the little code here that Amazon uses to, and they assign this code to your product. So every product has an ASIN. Now I've got a little plug-in here that shows me all the ASINs, but if you don't have that little plug-in, then when you click on the actual product and you scroll down, it has it listed here in the product details. Also, if you look at the URL up at the top, it is also in the URL as well, so you can actually just copy and paste it from there as well. And then so what you'll do is you'll so let's rather than pick the mix, because we're not doing the mix, let's pick some actual coffee cake, and I'll just grab the ASIN here, and let's see what this is ranking for. So we'll do this, we'll throw in the ASIN here, and then we will start the reverse ASIN search. You can put in multiple ASINs, so you don't have to just put in one at a time. It's pretty quick. Like it's pretty quick. So we'll go to reverse ASIN history, completed, and then there we go. Click on this, and it's going to take us in there, hopefully.
Many months later.
All right. Okay, so here's what it's ranking for, and now it's going to show you the exact, the phrase, and the broad, right? And so I go after exact and phrase in my keywords, and then I will occasionally add some broad ones just so that I can see if I'm missing out on anything. So, but I start with these, and then I go from there. So that particular coffee cake that we looked at, which is this one right here, that is, if I could only find what screen I'm on. Oh, there we go. All right, so, man, oh, the allergies outside, they've got me. All right, okay, so this will show you the search volume per month that is actually going down with this. So it's ranking for coffee cakes. It's in the 4th position, so if you type in coffee cake, it should hypothetically be number 4. It's showing up as number 3, but this changes all day long, so could be 4, could be 3. But it's up there pretty high, obviously. This is everything else that it's coming up under. So if you type in Drake's Cakes, you type in Devil Dogs, Drake's Cakes, Little Debbie, it's showing up. It's on that page. It's low, but it's on that page. Now, if you just type in straight Drake's, it comes up in the 3 position, which Drake's, Devil Dogs, Drake's Cakes. Let's take a look what the hell Drake's Cakes are, man. Drake's Cakes. All right, so Drake's Cakes is the brand, and I should have known that because I should have just looked at the corner. So that's why it comes up, because that's the brand name. All right, so I guess that's what I get for just doing this on the fly, right? Okay, so just typing in Flat Drake's, the name, or Drake's Cakes, all this comes up. Now, it comes up with Little Debbie. Little Debbie ain't the name. Crumb cakes, Entenmann's, all that sort of stuff. There's also some misspellings. So it also suggests some misspellings. Coffee with a K. You know, I'm going to go with dropping one F off too, like C-O-F-E-E. So I would look into that. But these are all the positions. So this is going to give you an idea of some other keywords to target, right? So, going down through this, crumb cake, all that stuff might be kind of good. So, that might all be good stuff to target. So this is kind of what I do when I'm going down through it, as I'm just looking at stuff maybe that didn't come up in merchant words during my search that I can add to it. Okay, so, and you can do multiple ASINs across multiple products. And so you can do this all day long and just use your credits and reverse search your competition and see what comes up. There's a lot more features that you can do on this, but this is the main one that I use. And then I just use that to kind of base my my search words for the ASIN on these. Okay. All right, so that's Keyword Inspector. Okay, so far, this has been my pattern so far. Negative keywords, I start off looking at those. I write some of those down. I find more negative keywords as we're going along. I start with merchant words. I then move on to Keyword Inspector, and I research my competition to see if there's maybe anything that I didn't find in my own search. And then finally, what I'll do is I'll look at Google Trends. Okay, so this is kind of my last stop on the journey. And why, oh why, do I look at Google Trends? I look at Google Trends because Amazon ads are triggered not just on Amazon, but they're triggered on Google also. So if you've ever searched Google for a product and you've had it suggest something, Google picks up on this stuff as well. Now, Google isn't working off the same database as Amazon is. So that's why I look at Google Trends. Google Trends has a completely different database from Amazon, and different keywords are important to Google Trends compared to Amazon. All right. So let's type in coffee cake. Cake. Oh, see, I can't spell it, right? Cake. All right, so we type in coffee cake. We can see interest over time. We can see throughout the year kind of how it's been going down. It looks like, wow, oddly enough, April, it's been fairly positive. December, I can 100% see why a sweet cake around that time would be super popular around Christmas time. So you can see it going up. So it does have a little seasonality to it. So you can see kind of nothing. And then around Christmas time, bam. And then around April, which is like Easter-ish, right? So maybe that's the other reason why it spikes. But in general, there's a little bit of interest throughout the year, but it definitely spikes around these two time periods. This is all Google, right? So this is what you see on Google. So this has nothing to do with Amazon's search directly. So down here, you'll want to look at some related topics, okay? So you can see Pillsbury, so all that sort of stuff is going up. Walnut and coffee cake. That's the first time I've seen walnut. So walnut may be a word. So this kind of gives you some ideas. Now, these are the rising terms. So this is stuff that is kind of going up in popularity, and it kind of shows you how much it's going up. So you can kind of look at that. Cafe mocha, sponge I didn't see. Scone, layer cake. So that's kind of rising. Now you can switch this to top, and it will show you what the very top searches are. So it's drinks, cake is in the type of dish, that sort of thing. So some of that stuff we already knew. Blueberry, so that's a new one. And then there's some on the low end past then you don't have to worry about. Now this, again, related queries on the right hand side. Related queries will show you some other stuff that you can consider. So red velvet, original, Bisquick, all that sort of stuff. And this is all rising again. And so you can also change it to top. Cake recipe, coffee cake. So this is all stuff that can kind of help you out. And this is all stuff that I add in because it's just a third option of keywords. And this stuff is important to Google. So that's why I added in. And you can do the same thing. You can go down the rabbit hole, right? So you can type in cinnamon. How do you spell cinnamon? Cinnamon. That's not right. There you go. See, I'm one of the guys that would type in cinnamon wrong, right? Okay, so there you go. So it gives you even more options. Diet, fiber, let's go to the top. Cake, spice, okay, rising. recipes, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so it gives you all kinds of extra stuff, right? So you can keep going down the rabbit hole. So that's why I use Google Trends. That's my last stop on my journey. And it shows me kind of the seasonality on Google. So it shows me what time of year it's popular. And then it shows me how popular it is. And then it suggests other words. And right now, you can look at it as a country, and you can also see where it's most popular. So you can kind of see where you might be shipping to, possibly, not always, but and you can limit it down to months, days, weeks, all that sort of good stuff. So Google Trends is good to check out. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's always a good third option. All right, so that is it for the pay-per-click. It's a journey. You're constantly changing. You essentially want to add these terms in and then go from there. See which ones Amazon is actually going to display your ads with, and then tweak and reduce and add and stuff like that. It's a constant moving target, but this will at least give you somewhere to start. Like I said, this is stuff that I use, but there's other stuff out there. I think there's Helium. There's a few others that you can look into. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear it. There's a lot more to this that I do, but this is just kind of a brief overview so that you can kind of look at kind of what I do process-wise and kind of the road I go down when I do this. So hopefully that helps a little bit. If this is stuff that you guys like, I can go more into depth on it. I can, talk about other stuff that I do. But let me know, I'm shooting in the dark here. I don't know what you guys like. Clicky, likey, subscribey. Yeah, do that. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.